Ready to live in a brand new home with all the amenities and perks of a community? In this video, I'll break down everything you need to know about buying a new construction home in a master plan community, from understanding the HOAs to navigating the building process to discovering hidden costs and fees. That's all getting explained in this video, so let's get started. If this is your first time to this channel and you want to know everything about living, buying, and selling in Southwest Florida, then subscribe and tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about the current market, latest news, and newest tips to keep you ahead of the curve. I'm Rick Harrison with the Home Sold Guarantee Group at MVP Realty here in Southwest Florida, and my team and I are getting calls, emails, and texts every day from people just like you looking for help on making their move to the greater Fort Myers area, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, send an email, or schedule a Zoom so we can help you figure out exactly what you want and where you want to be. All of our information is in the description below. So as I mentioned in this video, I'm breaking down the new construction home process and all the hidden things you don't usually find out until you've already fallen in love with the models. So before you make that mistake and break your heart, let's prepare you for the process and all the little things you need to know to move forward confidently with purchasing a new construction home. All right, so in today's mini webinar, I'm going to call it a mini webinar because it's a little bit of a workshop type of feel to it. I do have slides set up for everything so that you guys can see as well as hear me. But I want to go over just the quick agenda of what we're going to be covering today. First, we're going to go over the pros and cons of purchasing a new construction home, especially one that is in a master built community or a community with an HOA. We also are going to tackle the buying process, which is pretty similar to a resale property. Also looking at the due diligence, what you really need to do ahead of time, all the legwork that you need to do ahead of time to really know what you're getting yourself into, as well as confidently be able to make a decision that you'd like to move forward with purchasing a new construction home in a community, and all the things that go along with that. I'm also going to break down the costs and some of the things that you need to consider in addition to what's typical of what the prices that you see on the main posts outside. That's not typically what you're gonna pay for the home. So I'm gonna go into what entails purchasing a new home, as well as what the hidden costs are that you don't usually find out about until you're right about to sign the contract or obtain financing from the lender. Also want to talk about protecting yourself. There are some things that you should be doing. Most people don't do with new construction, and a lot of people end up paying the price for it. And then also all the things you want to know about before closing. So with that said, let's get right into it. First, the pros and cons of buying new construction. We're going to start out with the pros because that's what everybody's interested in, right? We all want to know what's all the goods for buying a new construction home. So obviously, it's new and high quality materials usually. I won't say that that's always the case with the high quality materials. It really will depend on the builder's reputation, who they use for vendors and contractors. But usually it's new, so you don't have to worry about things like the roof or the water heater or AC going bad anytime soon. A lot of the stuff is under a warranty, which we'll cover later on. Building codes and energy standards, everything will be up to date to the latest codes, and you will most likely have energy efficient windows and doors, as well as the way that the home is insulated and built. You also have the ability to customize and upgrade your home. Now, customizations are usually dependent upon who the builder is. For example, if it's a large builder like a Lennar Homes or a DR Horton, Neal Communities, things like that, a lot of them have very limited choices, and those are all built into special packages. But when you go with like a custom home builder, something that might be within a community, but it might be in the custom home built section, usually higher prices, but you usually have a lot more options with how things are built, what types of grade of materials are being used, things like that. Another pro is that usually the community has amenities of some sort, whether that's a clubhouse or fitness center. A lot of them have restaurants nowadays, a resort style pool. Those costs are usually shared throughout the community, which will sometimes get put into hidden fees, which we'll talk about later. But it's a shared cost. So you get all these great amenities things that you would find or have to go pay additional costs for out in the community, you get them right in your community, including your HOA fees. And those costs for building those things and maintaining them are usually shared between the homeowners. There's a sense of community and belonging, especially if you join a community that's more active. There are also rules and regulations to help maintain values. So a lot of people don't like the fact that homes in HOAs usually have a lot of rules and regulations. But at the same time, if you go to an area or a neighborhood that doesn't have an HOA, a lot of times you'll see sometimes where, you know, there might be a beautiful section in a neighborhood, and then all of a sudden you'll drive down the street a block and there'll be, 15 cars that are broken down or trying to be fixed up in the yard. There's trash everywhere. The grass is 10 feet tall. So rules and regulations in an HOA help you maintain that. It also helps keep the cost of the area and the building values up throughout time. And then also you have the home warranties. Most builders nowadays include at least a 1-year home warranty on everything. But they also do offer additional types of home warranties and grades of packages that you can purchase in addition to that. So let's talk about some of the cons. Usually there's a higher cost for buying new construction versus older homes, especially in the last 3 to 5 years. Really, the entry-level homes haven't been being built over the last 5 years. So most of the homes, there's just not enough profit for builders. Most of the homes nowadays are being built to someone who's a move-up buyer. And a lot of the older homes are tending to be what is considered an entry-level home now. So the home's costs are usually a little bit more expensive than what you can buy for a resale property. Again, that goes back to the pros and cons of not having to worry about a lot of the things because they're brand new materials. You also have a limited selection on usually lots and designs in the home, whether that is the floor plan or the upgrades that are allowed, or even the elevation, what is allowed to, how is your home going to look different on the outside versus the neighbor. Potentially less privacy. Some HOAs don't allow fences to be put up in backyards, things like that. You also tend to be a little bit closer than if you're buying, the homes tend to be a little bit closer built because the builder is trying to maximize their return on investment with their properties. HOA fees and hidden costs. Obviously, you got to pay for the HOA fees in most of the gated communities nowadays. You can typically find most newer developments are going to have at least $350 per month for their just base level fees. But there's also other hidden costs. So some of the things you don't find out about until you're about to ready to purchase, impact fees. Sometimes builders will charge impact fees in addition to the lot premium, the actual floor plan that you chose. They'll also have closing costs. Sometimes, depending on the market and what incentives the builder is offering, sometimes they will pay for closing costs, but closing costs may vary or be higher. Building upgrades, those are things you need to pay for in addition to it, and plenty of other costs. We'll go into some of them later. Limited control over the development. Now, this is just from stories that I've heard from other customers, not my own clients, but purchasing in an HOA, you are, especially when the community is just being built and there is no HOA, it's still the developer under the owning the rules and regulations. In your contract, when you sign the HOA addendum, there is a specific line that says that the builder has complete control, and you are basically waiving your rights to any objection against what they do to the building. So, for instance, this person had bought a home that was on a reserve. It was supposed to be designated as a reserve, meaning that nobody can build behind it. The builder ended up deciding to change that later on after these people had already purchased and moved in for a year, and change that reserve area to an actual buildable lot area. So now they had people behind them when they thought they weren't, and there was no recourse for them because they signed that HOA addendum. And you will see that in every single builder's package. When you sign, you are basically waiving your rights to any changes that they may make in the development. Stressful and time-intensive process. So most people get stressed out when it's building a new home because they don't always get top of the line communication with how the process is going for building their home. So a lot of people tend to stress out. So it can be stressful. It also is time intensive, especially nowadays with materials and products being kind of back ordered, backlogged. Sometimes there are quite a few delays. Recent friends who just bought up in the Sarasota area had really had some multiple delays. They had 3 or 4 month delays, which was unfortunate because they had already locked in their rate as interest rates were going up. But in order to keep those rates, they had to pay extended costs to extend those rate locks. So those can start to get expensive depending on who you're going through, because if it's a lender, they may, a regular lender, they may not charge that much. But if it's a builder's lender, they may charge additional rates to keep those interest rates locked. The other thing too is if you're buying in a new community, like brand new, the time that it may take them to get the amenities and the clubs and the community shared community areas up and running could be a year to 2 years out, depending on when you're purchasing in that area. All right, so this is just a general overview of the buying process. First, choosing a realtor. This is something, obviously I'm a realtor, so I would obviously recommend this, but it really is in your best interest. And we're going to go into that in the next slide. But choosing a realtor, who do you choose? How do you choose them? Things like that. The second step along the way is the research. And this is a several step thing that we're going to dive deep into, because you really need to do your research if you're going to be buying a home, a new construction home. There are lots of things people don't know about until after they've made the purchase. Choosing your builder and community, choosing your home, the actual floor plan, how it looks, signing your contract, obtaining financing, which you should be researching ahead of time, but that usually comes after you've signed your contract, and then closing and moving. So let's go right in and start off with the agent. So choosing an agent, this is a common myth, and it is a myth. I'll get a better deal buying directly from the builder. That is not the case. The truth is that you're not going to get a better deal. You're also not going to have an unbiased protection or support on your side who's negotiating in your behalf. And then on top of that, they've already negotiated what the commissions are going to be for a purchase. So not only are you not going to have any support or protection on your side in your corner, specifically helping you, you're also going to be giving the sales rep who's selling you the home both sides of the commission for the listing and the purchase side. So they're getting paid for both sides, and they're also really representing the builder more so than you. So they're going to be defending the builder's best interest more so than yours. They want to do the best for you that they can, but ultimately they are employed by the builder. So before we get into the community and the builder, just a couple things to talk about with choosing an agent. First of all, you want to choose an agent who's well known, or at least knows their area really well. And there's a lot of ways you can find this out. You can ask them questions about the market. If, for instance, for my channel, I have a channel where every week I do updates on the market stats. So somebody who's really looking into the stats and knows the numbers well can give you a better idea. But also you want to make sure that they're reputable. Go on Google, research the person, look up some realtors that have high 5-star reviews, a lot of them. Check out YouTube. You can find tons of real estate agents in your area, I'm sure, on YouTube. And then also check blog posts or go to Facebook and community groups to find reputable people who are referred to you by people who have used them in the past. So those are all some ways to look for a great agent. All right, so let's get into the research section. This will be several slides, but these are the things that you want to be looking for and considering when looking at a community, builders, and what the homes are going to be offering you. So let's start off with the location and community on the left-hand side here. First thing and number one thing, especially if you're looking in Southwest Florida, is going to be flood zone. You want to know if it's in a flood zone. You want to know what evacuation area you're in, because that's going to dictate a lot of costs associated with insurance, flood insurance, just in general, and additional costs when it comes to maintaining your home. So the flood zone is number one key. Find out if it's in an AE or if it's in a 500-year or 100-year flood zone, or if it's in an X. An X is the best because it's not in a it's not in a flood zone that requires flood insurance. So that's going to save you quite a bit of money there. But in addition, make sure you're checking up because FEMA does update these flood zones, and they have just recently done it. I'm sure they'll be doing it again in the future. And that happens as hurricanes come along and they need to evaluate the zones. Also, look at the crime rates. This is something a realtor really cannot help you with per se. They can't answer questions on that. So this is something you have to do on your own. They can point you to resources that may be helpful, but they can't actually answer your questions saying, oh yeah, this is a bad area. Okay, so that's against, it's really against our ethic code, as well as, well, it's considered steering. So it can be directing people to stay away or to go to certain areas. So that's against the law for us. School districts and ratings. Again, this is something you can usually find on a lot of real estate websites, especially search sites. Zillow offers it. Realtor.com, I believe, offers it. My website offers it as well. So you can see the ratings of schools and school districts. Florida is a school choice, so you can choose what school your children go to usually within reason. But just to put it in perspective, if you wanted your child to go to a school that was an hour away, keep in mind they may not have bus routes from your area to there, so you may need to be driving them every single day back and forth. They also don't, it's usually lottery to a certain point. People who are in the same district will get first dibs in a school, but it is lottery as well. So you usually have to put down several choices in order of importance in order to determine really, what schools you're going to be getting into. Community and nearby amenities activities. Make sure you have the things around you or in the community that you are looking for and use regularly. It's super during season down here. It gets the traffic gets very slow. So you want things close by that you can get to easily. Shopping, beaches, restaurants, service businesses. So make sure that those things are in your vicinity so you don't have to fight traffic all the time in your commutes. HOA rules and regulations. This is something, if you can get ahead of time, you want to, because there are a lot of rules and regulations in communities nowadays that tell you what you can do. So, people usually point out things that irritate them, like you can't paint the doors a certain color or they have to be a certain color. But other things like, can you put up a privacy fence? Can you put up a dog fence? Can you build a pool on your lots? Can you lease your property out? How many times can you do that? All those things are things you want to know ahead of time, especially if you're an investor. You need to know those ahead of time so you're not going to be kind of strong-armed into only renting a certain way if you are choosing to rent short-term or long-term, things like that. Build a reputation. Number one thing, online community reviews. Most communities have their own Google page. Go to that page, check out to see what people have said. A lot of people will respond, surprisingly, who live in the community, and they may tell you their honest feedback. I've seen plenty of those where they give you honest feedback about, I would never live here again. I'm disappointed in my choice to live here, things like that. So go on those pages to check out the reviews. Nextdoor and Facebook groups are another great resource. Go into those groups, ask around, especially if it's a local group like a Southwest Florida or a Fort Myers group. Ask people what they think about their neighborhood. You can also ask professionals, realtors who are in there and doing business regularly or transactions regularly in those communities, contractors who have built in there or repaired or done remodels. They get to see all the things behind the walls that people don't see until afterwards. So they can tell you. And then also inspectors is another good resource if you know of an inspector who's familiar with the neighborhood. Pro tip, also drive by the neighborhood or the community at different times of day to see what's going on. What's the activity like? What are people doing at different times of the day? Is it active? Is it not? So that's a great little tip there. Builder options. This is where things range quite a bit between builders, but floor plans and upgrades. So the first thing you're going to have to look at is going to be the lot premiums because they range all over the place, especially by the location. So A community out in the boondocks might only have a lot premium on the water for $70,000, but if you're getting one that's in a prestigious community, that that just that lot on the waterfront could be $250,000 before you even look at what the home is going to cost. Now, when you drive by a community and you see those signs out there that say starting at 300s or in the 300s or mid 300s, whatever it is, that's usually just the cost of the floor plan. That's not including the lot premium. So whatever that cost is at 300, usually you can generally add at least 50 grand to that for a lot. And that would be something that would be on a reserve or even with, neighbors directly behind you. So it wouldn't be a prime lot. So lot premiums go based on the size, the bigger, obviously, and then the location, waterfront or reserve or, neighbors behind or on sides. Those will all increase in price as they get, more premium. Floor plans, tour the models, but this is something you need to keep in mind. When you tour the models, just realize that these models have been upgraded to the hilt. They usually have at least $250,000 additional upgrades in them. So they look beautiful, and that's why people fall in love with them. A lot of people are a little bit unrealistic when they see the models versus what they're going to get, for the base package. But also standard home features. Check out what does the builder generally include standard in the home. So things like the smart home, is the whole home smart home activated? Are granite a standard, and what level of granite is standard in your base purchase? Is there tile throughout? Most builders have carpets in the bedrooms, which is another upgrade if you want tile or laminate throughout. Impact windows and doors. Higher end communities will have impact windows and doors included. A lot of other communities will not, if that's something you're looking for. Pro tip, add an additional, whatever your base cost is going to be for the lot and the floor plan. So let's say the lot's 50 grand, the home was 350,000, add a 15% to that for upgrades. So you're probably looking at paying closer to 425, somewhere around between 4 and 450 after all is said and done. When you actually put in what you actually want in the home at the base level. Builder reputation. Some really easy ways to find builder reputations. Online community reviews. So again, go to the community reviews on Google. BBB.com. Make sure that they have no complaints that are still pending. Or that they are somebody who actively resolves their complaints. Nextdoor and Facebook groups is also a great spot. Ask professionals. And then litigation and lawsuits. Check online or BBB.com. See if there's any pending litigation. Are they being sued for other communities that they built in before for not building things properly or completing the projects within a timely manner, whatever it may be. All right, moving on. Financing and closing costs and fees. So this is where things start to add up quickly, and you're not usually told any of these things up front. So HOA fees, the HOA fees will really range depending on the community or the type of community. Something like a gated community could start around $350 a month, but something like a golf included packaged community could be over $1,000 a month. And then those split up into, some communities have golf included on one part or one area, and then there's a social club on the other, and those HOAs will be different. So those are one thing. Also know, what do the HOA fees include and cover? Do they include lawn maintenance and maintaining all of the all the common areas? Or does it just include sprinkler systems or things like that? Club fees. Again, like I just mentioned, is it a golf club? Is it a boating club? Are there dock fees? Are there social club fees that you need to pay? Some communities have extremely high fees where, like a Fiddlesticks, you have to pay $50,000 just to become a member and be able to purchase in there. And then you also have additional monthlies that are like, $1,000 a month. HOA fee on top of it. Special assessments and CDDs. So a CDD is a community development district. Usually a lot of big builders or big communities will include a CDD, which is basically an additional tax that they include in your taxes. And that really goes to cover the building of the common areas so they are liquid with their money and they can start building other projects. So they make the homeowners pay that through the CDD. Special assessments would include things like if you're in Cape Coral, up in the northern part of Cape Coral, everything is on septic and sewer, well and septic up there, but they are all converting it over to central water and sewer. That would include a special assessment in addition on their taxes as well, which can be fairly expensive when you add it all up. Impact fees and utility connection fees. Some builders charge for these things. Some builders include it in their lot premiums or their building packages. Builders lender fees. So not all builders lenders offer the best options for financing your home. You want to look at, are they offering points? Are they making you pay points? Is the appraisal included, or are you paying for it? Is the insurance? Do you have to use certain insurance companies? Are their rates higher as far as what they're offering for interest rates, things like that. So you want to do all this ahead of time. Find out what all that information is from the lender, so that you know what you're working with, and then you can shop around later on to see if maybe a local lender can beat it out. Pro tip: weigh the builder lender incentives and shop lenders. A lot of the builder lenders will offer pretty large incentives. Like right now, I think $10,000 or $15,000 towards closing costs. So if you're buying a $300,000 home, that would pretty much cover all your closing costs right there. Also, shopping the lenders, sometimes local lenders will be able to get you better rates and options or incentives. Warranties and maintenance. See what the home builder offers for home warranty options. They are really similar to a car. A lot of them include a base level package that's usually a year for certain things. And then some of them offer 10-year for like mechanicals or something. Things like that, usually you have to pay for, but the 1 year is pretty standard for a builder to cover everything, especially structural. But the structural defects, appliances, flooring, and cabinetry are other options. You can also add your own home service companies or have your real estate agent, if you're using one, ask them to include one in their in their closing gift. Or you don't have to ask them, but I usually offer that to all my clients. I usually include a home warranty that covers everything, all the mechanicals, not the structural things that's usually included, but you can offer higher packages and find better warranties that are more expensive, but will cover everything. All right, so contract and financing. How do you actually begin your purchase? So the first thing you want to do is, once you have your realtor, if you're going to be going to communities, before you even go to any communities or look at them or type in your information on websites, you want to register or let your realtor know so that they can register you with the builder. If you go to the builder's site and you put in your information right on their site, that you can no longer have a real estate agent represent you. That builder now has your information. They now consider you their client, and the agent who you are working with will be cut out of the deal. And that happens all the time. There's a lot of different rules. Some communities or builders are very, I guess they're a little bit more cordial towards real estate agents. And as long as the agent sends them an email saying, "Hey, I just referred my client," or my client just registered on your site, they forgot to put me in there, or whatever it is, they'll usually check with the client, but at least they will allow that client to be represented by a real estate agent. Some builders and communities are completely the opposite. They don't care if the person forgot to mention you on their inquiry, then you are no longer representing them. So if you want a real estate agent to represent you and be on your side and help you negotiate things like that, make sure that you tell them about the community, have them register, or have them go with you to register you, so that you can actually have unbiased representation and protection. Next, you're going to want to choose your lot or your floor plan and elevation. So it's going to depend. Sometimes people want to choose the home that they want first versus what the lot is. And some homes only go on certain lots. So if you love the mid range, the mid-range home and elevation, you might not be able to get the base level lot premium. You might have to go up and upgrade to the next highest premium for that, because it might require a larger square footage for them to build on. After you choose the floor plan and the elevation, and what an elevation is basically the style of the way it looks on the outside. So some homes might be just completely stucco on one elevation on the outside, and then others, another elevation B might have faux rock or faux stone on the bottom half and pillars out front. So and they might have dormers on the front or different things like that. So it's really, how does the actual building look, which is going to be a little bit different than your neighbor. Also, if the homes, usually the same style of home is in the same area in the neighborhood, they usually have to do opposite. So like if your door is on the left-hand side on this one, your neighbor's door would have to be on the right-hand side. They don't want them to be directly the same, so it looks, cookie cutter. After that, you would go, this would usually come later on after you've already made your purchase, they've started building, is choosing your upgrades and your finishes. So the upgrades and finishes really range quite a bit, but that's where you got to go back to your research and see what do they include, what's standard, and then what do you really want in your home. So things like a chef's kitchen, that's going to be an upgrade. Things like a triple sliding pocket door for the patio, that's going to be hidden, so you can open the whole thing up. That's going to be a lot more money. You're talking 15 grand for that, or at least that's what it was. By the time you're watching this, it's probably going to be more. A tandem garage where you can actually store your boat. So something that's 2 car lengths deep, so you can actually put a boat in there to store it. An extended garage or an extended patio, or a pool and spa package. All those things are going to be upgrades that you'll need to talk about. And then also your finishes, what quality of granite or quartz do you want on your counters? What color do you want your cabinets? All those things will be picked in a separate visit where you can choose all your things in person and see what they look like. Then you would obtain financing. Hopefully you researched this ahead of time and found out what the lenders are offering, and you've shopped around so that you can actually make your best decision and go with their, move ahead with whatever you choose. Another pro tip, be prepared for delays, especially nowadays. Builders just aren't building as fast as they did back before the 2008 crash. So just plan on having delays. It's probably going to happen. You're looking, I'd say probably expect anywhere from 2 to 3 delays, anywhere from a month to 6 months for a delay based on materials. And those are going to also cost money, because you're probably going to need to extend a rate lock if you have one already locked in. Or if rates are coming down, you may not have to lock in your rate. You may be able to just wait until it's time to really lock in the rate before it's ready, and then you can move on from there. All right, preparing for closing. We're getting to the end here. Closing and moving. So prepare for the move. Things that you want to do. Provide notice if you have, like we had a storage unit when we first moved, so we had to provide them with 60 days notice that we were going to be moving out. Other things like your gym, if you belong to a gym, you'll need to provide them notice. Things like that. Moving logistics. How much is going to cost? What are you going to need to actually move? Are you going to need a full truck? Are you going to use friends and family to help you move? What are those costs going to be? And then other things like you actually getting your utilities set up. Who are your utility companies? A lot of times the builders will help you with this or set them up for you directly, but you may need to do that depending on who you're working with. And then also, just figuring out the dates and times of when things are going to actually happen. So coordinating everything is it can be tricky. Scheduling the final walkthrough. You need to read the contract on this. This can get a lot of people. So especially if you're going to be doing, if you're going to have an inspection, a final inspection before closing, read the contract, see when they're going to do. It's usually what they call a new home demonstration. That's when the builder's rep walks you through the home and shows you everything, shows you a lot of times there's touch-ups. They'll have like blue tape on places that they need to touch up before you actually move in. But if you want to have a home inspection, the only way to have an effective home inspection is to actually get what they call a code inspector. So somebody who cites code and is familiar with the codes, because most builders have something written in their contracts where if you get a regular home inspector to come out, they're not going to fix anything that the inspector finds unless it's a violation of a code. So that's where you want the code inspector, somebody who is familiar with the code and can write up the report that the builders need to fix these things because it negates this code. And you want to make sure you read the contract for the final walkthrough, because if your new demo day is, can only be 5 days before closing, and you want to have the inspection 10 days before closing, you need to figure out, can I make this work? And is this going to be enough time? You also have to coordinate with the buyer's rep and the builder rep to, the home rep and the builder's rep and the contractor to actually get the inspector in there and walk them through the home, because they won't just let you do it on your own. So you want to make sure you talk about that with the builder or the builder's rep. Then you have the new home demo, which is pretty much your final walkthrough. And then you have closing, which is usually a few days after that. So all of those things happen pretty fast towards the end. And most builders do a pretty good job. There's definitely more reputable builders than others, but I always recommend getting a home inspection, even just for peace of mind, so that everything was done well. You're not buying a lemon. You're not buying something that's going to have problems right off the bat. All right, so just to recap everything. So first thing, get somebody in your corner who's representing you and is going to, really fight for you, you and your best interests. Do your due diligence up front. There's a lot of legwork and research that goes into it, but if you do it up front, it makes the whole process a lot easier and simpler, and you'll feel a lot more confident moving forward. Check out the location and the amenities. Make sure you go to these places. There are some people who are fine with just purchasing from distance, and that's fine. But for most people, you want to check out the location, see where it is in relationship to main areas like downtown or the beaches or things like that, your workplace. Make sure it's something, and then go during different times of the day. See what the traffic's like at different times of the day, rush hour, both in the morning and the afternoon. See if it's the same during the at lunchtime, things like that. Consider your budget and all costs. Make sure you find out what all the fees are up front from the builder. Get all the upgrade packages. They usually will show you what those costs are going to be if you ask them for it, but most people don't ask them until they're ready to buy. Consider the other fees that may be hitting the CDD, taxes, the special assessments, impact fees, all those things. Shop for your best financing. Lenders, the builder lenders usually do have some of the best incentives. I will give them that, but then not always, it's not always, and it depends on what type of market we're in as well. So if it's a booming market and everybody's buying and there's not a lot of inventory, the builders probably aren't offering that many incentives. But if it's a down market, it's a buyer's market where, there's lots of inventory and really not that many buyers, then they're probably going to be offering pretty awesome incentives for you to purchase with them. And then also protect yourself, obviously. Make sure you get an inspection if you can and, feel like you should. I recommend you do. And then also make sure either you're getting a home warranty from the builder, maybe an upgraded one. You're purchasing a separate one on your own, which usually range between $500 for the year to $1,000 for the year, depending on the size of the home. Or, if you can, see if you can purchase one of the upgraded packages, home warranties, through the builder, which might be a few more years in addition to that. So do your research and be prepared when buying a new construction house. There are a lot of costs and things you don't usually find out until after you walk in and fall in love with the home. And by then it's too late. Well, that's it for today. But if you have more questions on the process, communities, or builders, please feel free to call or text me directly. There's a link in the description and the comments with my contact information. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you around town. But until then, stay safe, stay positive, and more importantly, stay free.